all seen the classic ad. Someone sends someone a text, and it says something like, "You coming? When will you be here? ETA? Question mark." The next thing you see is somebody in a car, driving, and you usually hear the text tone go off, like, ding! And the person usually looks at it. Then the other person who's not driving sends another text. But this time, they don't get an answer. Eventually, they send another text asking if the driver is okay. But, as usual, the damage is already done, and we know that they are not okay. It turns out that instances like these are not just isolated to commercials and the videos we watch in driver's ed classes. In fact, nearly 330,000 injuries occur every year from accidents caused by texting while driving. That's about one every half hour. It is very important that you, as new drivers, understand just how dangerous cell phone use and driving is, so that you remember to always obey the rules surrounding cell phone use when driving. By the end of this lesson, I hope you will understand the dangers of cell phones, including just how distracting they really are, how disastrous this distraction can be, and why you need to obey the rules about cell phone use while driving. Now, you might think, I'm not all that distracted by my phone. I can easily pick up my phone, read a text, and not be distracted from my driving at all. Or maybe I don't even have to pick it up. Maybe I could just glance at where it's sitting next to me and be like, oh, so-and-so said, how are you doing? And not be distracted by it at all. Well, I don't think we realize just how distracting our cell phones are. In fact, answering a text message takes your attention off the road for at least 5 seconds. Now you might think, 5 seconds, that's not too much, but really think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that time, I could have traveled up to an entire length of a football field or more in that 5 seconds. That's a long time. In fact, the average following speed of a car to another car is 3 to 5 seconds. If the car in front of you stops suddenly while you're looking at that text, you'll hit them because you'll be distracted for 5 seconds and you're following them at about 3 to 5 seconds. In fact, texting while driving causes a 400% increase of time spent with eyes off the road. That time that you're spending with your eyes off the road could mean life or death for a pedestrian or a cyclist or the car in front of you. And you might think, well, okay, so maybe you're right, texting is super distracting. But what if I'm just talking on my phone? All I'm doing is holding it up to my ear and having a conversation. Obviously that can't be that distracting. Well, it turns out that holding a phone conversation can seriously divert your attention from traffic around you, which can cause danger to other people on the road. As you chat with your best friend about the movie you saw last night, you may not notice the brake lights in front of you, the pedestrian, or a cyclist. Think about all of those times when you make a right turn and you go over a bike lane. Now usually, while you drive up, you see that there's nobody in the bike lane so that you know you can turn. But what if because you were talking with your friend on the phone, you missed a person in the bike lane and you forgot to check before you turned and you hit them? Talking on the phone and having a conversation is a serious distraction and cannot be taken lightly. Well, what if you have a speaker or a Bluetooth and you're not even having to touch your phone at all? Well, it turns out that hands-free devices don't really minimize distractions, as it's the actual conversation that you're having, as opposed to the actual holding or touching of your cell phone. While the cell phone is distracting as well, the conversation is also a huge distraction piece that we don't always understand. Here's an example. The National Safety Council posted an article about the dangers of hands-free cell phone use. In it, they told this story. January 2004, at 4 p.m. in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a 20-year-old woman ran a red light while talking on a cell phone. The driver's vehicle slammed into another vehicle crossing with the green light directly in front of her. The vehicle she hit was not the first car through the intersection. It was the third or fourth. The police investigation determined the driver never touched her brakes and was traveling at 48 miles per hour when she hit the other vehicle. The crash cost the life of a 12-year-old boy. Witnesses told investigators that the driver was not looking down, not dialing the phone, not texting. She was observed looking straight out the windshield, talking on her cell phone as she sped past 4 cars and a school bus stopped in the other southbound lane of traffic. Researchers have called this crash a classic case of inattention blindness caused by the cognitive distraction of a cell phone conversation. Obviously, if researchers are comparing talking on your cell phone to a blindness, it's more than just a small distraction. It's a serious problem. I mean, what's more distracting than legitimately being blind? Obviously, if they're comparing that to a cell phone conversation, it needs to not be taken lightly. Now, we all hear all the time that drunk driving is the most selfish and unsafe, irresponsible thing you can do. Well, it turns out that if you're texting while driving, you are actually 6 times more likely to get into an accident than driving drunk. That means texting while driving impairs your ability to drive 6 more times than actually being physically affected by alcohol. Obviously, texting and cell phone use while driving is extremely distracting and isn't just a simple, looking at my phone, putting it down. No, it's a serious, serious distraction that cannot be taken lightly. Well, what if you're like, well, yeah, okay, so yeah, maybe being on my phone or texting or something like that is distracting, but it's okay so long as I don't hurt anybody. You know, I know that it's distracting, but I know that, so that means I'm not being dangerous. Like, you only do it when you're at like a red light or a stoplight, or you only make sure you're always following the speed limit and paying attention to the road as well, so that you're not endangering anybody. Well, this is truly a lie. We are unable to use our phones while being completely safe on the road. In fact, statistics tell us it's quite the opposite is true. Cell phone use leads to 1.6 million crashes every year. And in fact, distracted driving makes for the most transportation fatalities in the US. Not only doesn't it cause an exorbitant amount of crashes, it causes the most deaths. The most deaths are related to texting or cell phone use while driving. In fact, 1/4 of all accidents are caused by texting. And you know what? It's not just the statistics about the dangers. It's the fact that talking on the phone makes you 4 times more likely to get into a crash. You are more likely to crash your car if you're texting or talking. And if you're texting, you are 8 to 23 times more likely to crash. They say that 500,000 people die or are seriously injured in car accidents caused by cell phones each year. 500,000 people. I live in a town with about 100,000 people in it. That means every year, 5 times the amount of people who live in my sizable city are killed or seriously injured due to car accidents caused by cell phone use. Obviously, cell phone use is extremely dangerous, and the distractions caused by texting are not just small matters. These aren't just fender benders. These are serious crashes in which there are fatalities. 500,000 people. Well, you may be thinking, okay, you're right. Texting and talking on the phone while you're driving, it's distracting and it's dangerous for people who let it be distracting and dangerous. But I don't feel like that applies to me. Like, I only really use my phone at red lights, or I never use my phone, or I'm really good about it. But I would like to say that you, as new drivers, as drivers who are getting used to all other things about the road, it is especially important to you to understand just how dangerous texting and driving is, and to follow the rules. You might think, well, so long as I don't get caught, as long as no one gets hurt, it's okay if I use my phone. And that is not true. 11 teens die every day as a result of texting and driving. And while you may be able to admit that these things are dangerous, just like 94% of teens do, 94% of teens agree that cell phone use and driving is dangerous. Yet over 30% of them still continue to do it. A lot of the times, if we don't actually face the consequences of our actions, we aren't swayed by just what we hear as the potential consequences. But the thing is these consequences are extremely real and could very well happen to you. 21% of teens who die in car crashes were on their cell phones. That's all. That's to say that cell phones cause 21% of car crashes. The dangers of cell phones isn't only a problem for everyone, it is especially a problem for teens. And you know what? If the danger isn't enough of a argument against why you need to be following the cell phone rules, it turns out that if you are caught using your cell phone while you are driving, you can be fined a $2,000 ticket. I don't know about you, but I do not have $2,000 lying around. I don't even have $200 lying around. But picking up your phone and glancing at a text or just responding with a quick K can lead to you losing out on $2,000. Not to mention possibly getting in a car accident and injuring yourself or a family member. When you are behind the wheel, you are responsible for everybody not just in your car, but in your car and on the road. You are responsible for a very large vehicle that can cause real danger and real injuries. It's not just a small deal. That means you need to be responsible for limiting as many distractions as you can. Remember, distracted driving has caused the most fatalities. So in order to limit distractions, which will make you a safer driver and make for safer road conditions, you need to eliminate distractions, which means following the rules about the cell phones. There are laws in place for a reason that say no texting, no using your phone while you're driving. And I would even take it a step further and say you're not going to have phone conversations either. While their hands-free phone conversations are allowed within the law, it's still a very dangerous thing to be doing, especially as new drivers. As new drivers, navigating traffic, remembering rules, and being aware of what's going on around you already presents you with so many possible distractions and potential dangers that the last thing you want to do is add the distraction of your cell phone. Remember, using your phone, texting on your phone, will cause you to take your eyes off the road for at least 5 seconds, the entire length of a football field. Texting makes you 8 to 23 times more likely to crash, and 21% of teens who die in car crashes were on their cell phones. Obviously, the ads that tell us that calls kills aren't just gimmicks. Cell phones are distracting and dangerous, and we need to follow the rules of the road when it comes to cell phones, especially as young drivers and as teens. You need to not use your phone in order to keep yourself and those on the road with you safe. Thank you.